Hello and welcome to C-Suite Middle East. Today we're speaking to Mr. Fadi Hammadeh, one of the top general counsels in the entire Middle East. He's the head general counsel for Al Futtaim with previous experience as a general counsel for DIFC, Dubai Properties, and senior legal roles within Majid Al Futtaim as well, just to name a few. He has an outstanding academic pedigree with a collection of 5 degrees. His LLB is from Damascus University. He has a master's in law from Paris du Assas. He has another master's from Paris and Sorbonne, another master's in law from London University, and an executive MBA, a combined program done by London School of Economics, Stern Business School, and HEC in France. So thank you so much for coming and welcome to the show.
Pleasure.
So Fadi, what are some of the challenges in setting up corporate governance structures in family or other unlisted organizations?
Sure. Let me start with the challenge focus on the challenge in this particular part of the world, if you don't mind, Shane, the Middle East and in particular the GCC. Well, to start with, corporate governance is not a statutory requirement, correct? So it's an optional thing for private businesses and in particular family businesses to follow. Whereas historically, as you know, corporate governance has evolved during the mid-80s, early 90s, on the long tail of many businesses' bankruptcies that we've seen in the States, like Enron and so on and so forth. That trend to establish corporate governance did not extend to family businesses. And so yes, it is challenging because more so than a constitution to be drafted or an advice to be given, it's a cultural shift. It's a cultural shift by the family founders and the owners to believe that corporate governance is relevant and useful. It's relevant for their business continuity and useful for achieving the objectives that they have set their minds to achieve.
And I think there's also an additional challenge, where you look at, I don't know if this is just my opinion, but in the West, normally we have 1 or 2 kids. So if you have 2 brothers and you maybe have 4 kids coming into this, but here you can have 6 or 7 kids. So if you have 2 even brothers or 3 brothers, that's like 21 people coming as the next generation into the business. This becomes much more complex.
It is, but it's an exponential thing as well. Even in the West, we had a global family business conference in Dubai last year, and you can see some European families, 6 or 7 generation, 500 family members. It's just the way it is. Once you reach your 6 or 7 generation, take the Congo family in Japan, lasted for 40 generations. You can probably imagine they probably had tens of thousands of family members. So it's really, corporate governance is the glue that will bring the family together. And when you think about it, it's a buzzword, and often we say corporate governance without trying to understand what it means. Simply it means creating the platform for constructive communication between family members, leading to positive cooperation. Cooperation is very important at the human level, probably even more important at the corporate level, because we're not talking about friends here, we're talking about people who work together under the same roof, achieving interests. So it's very important for them, complete strangers, it's very important for them to cooperate both at the business level and at the family level.
So for family groups out there who are a bit more nascent in their development of their corporate governance and want to take it to the next level, right, how best should they approach this topic?
It's very important to understand what they, as we said, what they're trying to achieve. First, it has to start with theoretical understanding of the problem. The problem could be summarized in 3 circles: the family, the business, and the ownership. The problem is that these circles are not independent. They're overlapping. The family overlaps with ownership, management overlap with family, and so on and so forth. So you get all these tensions. That's what corporate governance seeks to achieve, to resolve these tensions that you get when these 3 circles overlap. Now, maybe someone will say, well, they shouldn't overlap. No, they can't. They have to overlap. They have to overlap. Otherwise, you will be separating completely the objectives, or the objectives have to be aligned. The family objectives, the ownership objective, and the business objectives have to be aligned, more or less. So they have to overlap. But how do you solve for these tensions is what corporate governance seeks to achieve. Now, many family businesses think it's enough to create business governance. So they create beautiful board of directors, fantastic executives, and even more fantastic non-executives, separate chairman from CEO, and all these best practices. But is that enough for family businesses? Absolutely not, because that solves the problem of one of the circles, one of the conundrums. Simultaneously with that, we need to create governance for the family. And then we need to create governance and solve issues for ownership continuity. When we speak of succession planning in general, we're trying to solve for two problems. Ownership continuity, how can we maintain the business, family business, as one economic unity, ensure it will not be fragmented as it transitions from one generation to another. And the second is management continuity, because the first thing that happens upon the demise of the father or the founder of the business, it could be a mother, is sibling rivalry. We've seen it so many times. The Koch family, the Ambani family, the Gucci family, there are examples all over the world. There are examples in this part of the world. How do we solve for sibling rivalry? For that, you need a strong corporate governance that encourages communication, solving problems within the family in an amicable way, as opposed to airing your problems in public, especially with the social media now. You wouldn't spare anybody.
So what are some examples of family governance structures, and how does it work? Because I think it can be pretty complicated. It's not just the brothers and sisters, but it's also their children, so you can look at quite a large group.
Right. There's no one solution that can fit every family. The best governance I've seen is the governance that is custom, tailored design to meet the family requirements. Some of these families, as you rightly mentioned, are just first generation trying to solve for 3 or 4 siblings. Other are third or fourth generation with 500 different cousins and siblings. And we have examples of these in the Middle East. So there's no fit-for-all solution, but I would start first and foremost with the business, because it's very important for the business to be cohesive. And towards this end, it's very important to have the right legal structure. Oftentimes you see in the Middle East, family businesses organized as partnerships. They have grown organically. The founder was focusing on his business plan, established a partnership, or often we call it sole proprietorship. There's very little distinction between the legal personality of that sole proprietorship or partnership and that of its owner. So when the owner expires, naturally, the business becomes at the risk of expiry, because there is no separation between the owner and the business. So the first important thing to do, the first advice, is to restructure your group. Have the proper limited liability structure, organized in a holding group structure. Once you have the legal structure in place, clearly holding and operating down below, then you can create your corporate governance. So it's like a painting. You draw the broad lines then you add the colors. Corporate governance are the colors. And so then you create a board of directors for the holding company, as opposed to boards for the operating entities. As many committees as you think appropriate. Of course, there's no box to tick here. It's what makes sense to the family. Some families have more focus on strategy, so strategy committee becomes important. Others on risk, so then you have risk committee. Some will have both. So at the end of the day, there is no fit for all, but that's on the business side, Shane. What often many families in this part of the world tend to neglect is the family governance. So very rarely you get family council, for instance, that under the auspices of which family members can congregate, and meet and discuss some of the issues that are relevant to their family. We don't have many family offices, though the phenomena is starting to appear now, but we don't have the culture of family offices under the auspices of which we can organize philanthropy, for instance. And there's a lot of emphasis now on social responsibility of family businesses, under which we can organize some of the issues that otherwise lead to disputes within families, like family employment, like family education, like dividends distribution. These are the real issues that cause families to have feud and disputes, leading to disintegration of the family business.
Well, Fadi, thank you so much for coming on the show, and hopefully we can have you on again sometime.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.